What's up, companions? I was not planning on making this video, but I was doing my second rewatch of the show and starting to try and get my thoughts together about what we saw. And I started to go down the rabbit hole on the heroes that are appearing in this section. And I'm just going to do a quick little video here that I'm actually probably going to drop before I drop my reaction video because I'm not done editing that yet. But I'm going to edit it today, and I will be dropping it today. But what I'm going to do real quick here is I'm going to do a quick video and explain who these different people are in this moment, because my reaction to this is maybe slightly overblown. It's pretty good. This moment made me realize, guys, that if you'd asked me consciously to pick out my favorite character in these books, I'd probably tell you Perrin, because I do love Perrin. But I love his powers and stuff. I love the wolf stuff. I love his later storylines. I love what happens with him and his character. I think they're very interesting, stories. But I also love Matt, and I would always tell you that the two are very close to me. But I've realized watching this show that my extremely visceral reactions to Matt's stories, I think Matt's probably my favorite character. And so that's also part of why my reactions up to this point have been a little overblown, considering what they've been doing with him and with his character and with his family and all that. So interesting, to learn things about myself that I couldn't have consciously told you if you'd asked me specifically. But like I said, what I'm doing here is a quick video about that specific moment when Matt blows the horn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you each of the heroes that I have identified, and only two of them are listed in the credits during the scene. And they're the two most obvious to identify. They're the ones right next to him. One of them is like hit you over the head obvious, and the other is a perfect choice for this show. But she's also there. She's supposed to be there in the books anyway. But then I started to go, well, I see another character I recognize right off the bat. So I thought, how many of these other characters are actually heroes that we know? And you know what, guys? It's more than you would think. And it's actually, they're identifiable, because these characters are all based on characters from either our mythology currently or our history, our real history. So they have historical bases. So they do things like give them looks, and they use weapons and stuff that just make them identifiable if you know enough about the characters, right? So just to Matt's right, the man who is speaking to him, that is Arthur Hawkwing. Arthur Hawkwing carries his great sword, Justice. And Arthur Hawkwing was the High King of all the lands. I did a video about the maps at one point. If you went back and watched that, it would help you a lot with some of this. But Arthur Hawkwing conquered all the lands that we've been seeing, all the map, if you're looking at the map that we know about. He conquered all of it. And then he sent some of his kids off to other parts of the world to try and conquer them. Okay. Then on Matt's other side, we have Amarisu. Amarisu is based on a Shinto goddess, Amaritsu, and she's a sun goddess. And Amarisu's sword is supposed to glow like the sun when she fights, according to her legend. And I'm not going to know a ton about all of these characters, guys. You can always go look them up. There's going to be more and less information about some or others. Then, obviously, we've got Uno. We all know Uno. And his actions that we saw must have gotten him included in the Heroes of the Horn, which is not something that happens in the books, but I'm all about it. It's dope. Then next to Uno, we have Birgitta Silverbow, and Birgitta, she's an amazing archer, and she's sort of a Robin Hoody character. She's clashing with big evil powers, and the Dark Friends and all that in her lives over and over again. And she's tied up to another character called Guidel Kane. I'm not sure if Guidel Kane is one of these characters, because Guidel Kane, in the books, is known for having a sword stick up over either shoulder. He could be this character that we see standing next to Birgitta, but he's carrying a shield instead of using two swords. This could be Guidel Kane, and it could not be. Okay, so other characters that I think I have that I've identified here, right? We've got Callian the Chooser. Okay? And the reason that I know this is Callian the Chooser is mostly because of who Callian is based on. So Callian is based, or is a parallel of a Hindu goddess Kali. And Kali is, number one, Indian. So they picked out a look, a style that looks, like that geographic region of the world. It's similar. But, it's still fantastical, but very, very similar. But the reason that I know that it's her is because she has a brother, and her brother is named Shivan the Hunter, and he's based on Shiva the Destroyer, which is another Hindu god. And Shiva the Destroyer uses a trident. And so I think it's really smart that just by the placement of these two together and the fact that he's holding a trident, they've made it so that I can identify these characters. Nobody says their name. It doesn't say it on my, pop-up screens or anything here, but they are identifiably characters from the books if you want to do your deep dive homework. Okay? Clearly, that's who they are. Even though these are not major characters. These are not people I could have named off the top of my head. Callian the Chooser and Shivan the Hunter, I don't know any stories about them from the books, right? But they are heroes of the horn that are mentioned at this point in the books as people who show up when Matt blows the horn. And I just think that they've done a brilliant job making them identifiable. And then also, right next to, I can't believe I didn't do this one first. Right next to Archer Hawkwing, we have what I'm pretty sure is clearly Rogosh Eagle-Eye. Rogosh Eagle-Eye, from what we know about him, he was up in the Borderlands. There's a lot of treachery and drama in his storyline. He's an amazing archer, right? So that's why he's got his bow out. And I'm pretty sure that his shoulder pauldrons are eagles, or avian if you look at them. So it makes sense that would be Rogosh Eagle-Eye, and Rogosh Eagle-Eye is another one of the really famous ones, like Archer Hawkwing. You actually hear about him a decent bit in the books. All right, so those were the obvious ones. Now I'm going to get into a couple that are a little bit harder to guarantee, but I'm going based on kind of feelings and also just, from what I know. So we've got the guy next to Birgitta, who, I said could possibly be Guidel. I think it's far more likely that he's either Otaren or Padraig, both of which are based off of Catholic saints. St. Patrick, and then a saint that was canonized in the early 2000s is the other guy. And the reason for that is if you just look at him, he's wearing a Roman helmet, for starters. And then the colors and all that, it's very Catholic churchy. So it would make sense if you were given, you need to make a character who kind of looks like a saint, but is also a warrior and, blah, blah, blah. This guy, he's got the general look of, he almost looks like the Swiss Guard, for that matter. All right, so that's my guess on him. Then right next to him, we have one that's even a little bit deeper, a little harder for me to, say I know who this is. But I think I do. I think it's Blaze of Machichin. And the main reason being because we know her name. She's in the books at this part. And if I'm remembering correctly, Blaze of Machichin fights with 2 knives. And if you look at these pictures, this woman appears to fight with fighting knives. So, female hero of the Horn in the front, right? We see her fairly prominently. And I think that's Blaze of Machichin. She's supposed to be very beautiful. She's someone who the Dark One supposedly wanted her to be a dark friend from the day she was born, and she just her whole life had to fight to not join the Dark Friends. If I'm remembering correctly, she fights with knives. And then I've got one more guess that might be my least good guess yet. But so based on her outfit and her face paint and all that stuff, I think that this is Bwad. And Bwad is a queen who led the last ride of her people. And she's based on Boudica, a Celtic Iceni chiefess who, led the fight against Rome at one point in Britain. So again, she's supposed to parallel the story of Boudica. So if you want to look up Boudica, great classic story. I don't really have any good guesses on any of the other characters here on the fringes. If anybody else has some guesses on who they are, based on some sort of textual book knowledge or some knowledge of the mythology behind the characters that we know from the Horn. We only know so many of the Horn, of the heroes of the Horn, like their, real names and whatever. So a lot of these people could just be unnamed. They aren't necessarily specific people from the books. But if you have any ideas about who one of these people is that I missed, let me know. All right, I'm going to edit this real quick, and then I'm going to get to editing the real draw.